Welcome into another episode of Everything is Logistics, a podcast for the thinkers in freight. I'm your host, Blythe Brumleve, and we are once again live on location in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. I said the city name that right, and country is very challenging.
It is challenging.
Especially the thermostat, going from Celsius to Fahrenheit. It's challenging for us Americans.
People are like, it's 9 degrees, and I'm like, oh gosh, I don't have a coat.
I have the same exact reaction. So we are actually joined with Steve Burroughs. He is your business owner for SBI Logistics.
That's correct.
Do you have an official business name, or are you a freight agent for SBI?
We're freight agents. They call us Team Burroughs.
Nice.
And we're from Southwest Florida. So.
And we were talking before we hit record. You have 9 children.
We have 9 children and 5 grandchildren.
And several of them work for your company. 4
of our children and one of our daughter-in-law works for us, yes.
And so it's a complete family affair.
We only have family work for us.
That's incredible. So how do you navigate, I guess, the challenges of working with family? Because most people, even the interview that we had before this said never work with family. So how do you, I guess, combat that?
It's difficult. You learn a lot of humbling lessons along the way. My wife and I first started working together, and we survived those first 2 years without killing each other or divorcing each other. And then we brought our oldest daughter on, and 6 months after that, we brought our oldest son on, and then it just sort of progressed from there. Then our daughter-in-law joined us a couple of years later, and then finally our 5th child, who is a daughter, and then our 6th child has joined us. So, I guess everybody kind of looks at it, all our children look at it, and they're kind of excited about the opportunity to join the family business, and we love that. We love that. We love sharing this business with our family, and it does bring its own unique challenges because I'm a little headstrong, and I've had to learn to calmly traverse the waters, and don't always do a good job of that, but we try. And we always have to remember, and we've actually had meetings where I would stop everything and shut the phones off and say, guys, we love each other. We're family, and the business will not come ahead of the family, because the minute that it does, I'll shut the business down. And so it's worked for us. I know it won't work for a lot of people, but we kind of each have our own unique roles in the company, and we've been very successful.
So give folks, I guess, a little bit of an understanding. How long have you been in business? How did you get into freight? What's your freight backstory?
Well, my backstory is that I learned to drive a stick shift when I was 14 years old in a 76 cab over Peterbilt. I grew up in North Alabama, and if you didn't know how to move a truck, you couldn't work unless you worked in the coal mines, and I was too young to do that. So I was shagging trailers when I was 14, 15 years old, and I have a degree in industrial management, and with an emphasis in logistics. I'm one of those kind of odd birds. I've worked on every side of the fence. I have a CDL. We own trucks. We've dispatched trucks. I've been a corporate manager, a corporate director of transportation for a steel company. I've had 200 drivers working for me. I've owned 3 trucks and had 17 leased on to me. So I've kind of sat on every side of the fence. I've had broker agents calling on me, and now I call on them. And so I think it gives us a unique perspective. At my position when I was with the steel company, I had the opportunity I had an unlimited budget in the transportation department. So I sent myself to every single school I could find.
Oh, wow.
And became an expert in the CSA scores and in inspections. And I actually am a level 2 accident investigator. And everything I could get a certificate for and learn, I did. So it really makes it unique for us to be in this industry, because I just came from a session where people were asking questions about sales. Well, I could answer a lot of those questions because I was on that side I was the guy they were trying to find. And so I've always kind of been in the business, and we bought our own truck. I was working for another steel company, and in 2000, I believe it was, and we couldn't find trucks, so we decided to buy one. And we bought a truck, and then we bought another truck, and then I left that business, and we started just running trucks and built our business up, and we're doing very well. And then 2008 came along, and the bottom dropped out of the trucking industry, and overnight our business was gone. So I went to work for the steel company, and I was with the steel company for about a year, and same situation came along about 2010 or so. my boss came to, 2009 maybe, my boss came to me and said, could your wife, Mary, maybe broker some freight for us because we can't. And I said, well, that's a conflict of interest, And he said, I know that, but we need freight moved. I said, okay. And we started our business. And she started the business. And, honestly, Blythe, we were in a position where, we had just come through a really tough economic time and money was not flowing. And the steel company paid me just enough to stay hungry. And she started the business and the goal was $200 a week. $200 a week was life-altering for us. And here we are, some 14 years later, in the top 3 of the company that, SPI, and we've only been with SPI for going on 3 years. This is our 3rd year, and it has been a magnificent career, a magnificent business, and even more so now that we're with SPI.
And so you started the freight brokerage business. When did you get to the point when you knew that you could probably be doing more, and so you started searching for maybe freight agent partnerships, or did you know about being a freight agent before you started your brokerage?
We did, but we thought, we needed to own trucks. We didn't trust brokers. And, the brokerage business was like the Wild West, and you couldn't trust them. And we thought the same stereotypical things that some truckers do now. Freight brokers are just going to out to screw you and take the majority of the money. And we knew that when we started the business in 2009, and 3-4 years later, I left the steel company and came home to join the freight brokerage because it had grown to a significant enough place where it was time where we had to build someone else's dream by keeping the job, or build our own dream by quitting and coming to the freight brokerage. But when we started our business, we knew that we were going to do so with integrity, and we were never going to lie, never, ever, ever going to lie to our customer or to a carrier. And I always tell the customer, I will tell you the truth. Even if it hurts me, I will tell you the truth. But I never go to my customers with a problem that I don't have at least what I think might be an answer. And I never screw a driver. Never, ever, ever. I never lie to a driver. If the pickup time is at 1 o'clock and 4 o'clock is the only appointment I can get, I'll tell him, you're going to wait. And there may or may not be detention. I've got some customers that won't pay detention at all. And I'm very honest and upfront. But I also pay my drivers very well. There are companies out there that they take big time advantage of the driver, and they get caught keeping a huge amount of margin, and I just don't believe in that, because those are the guys that are out there spending the night in the truck and buying fuel and buying tires and doing all those things. And we run a lot of loads, and our margins might not be as big as other agents, but we have guys that I can just give them a pickup number. They don't even need a rate con, because they know that once I get back to the office, I'll send a rate con, and the load may already be delivered before they even get their rate con.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So we've just made that our practice. We do everything with integrity. I talk to my family a lot about character and honor, and that's just how we just have chosen to run our business.
And it sounds like with your experience on all different levels of within the freight industry or moving freight, that it almost is a selling advantage to the drivers, to the carriers, to the customers that keep coming back, because you know and you empathize with what they're going through.
Well, I do. And then I'll have drivers that are maybe newish to us, and they'll try to lie. And I'll be, that's not true. I've been out there. You know it, and I know it, so let's just skip this little lie here and let's go on to the real truth. And so that's what we do.
How do they react when you say something like that to them?
They're
do they immediately start telling?
Oh, yeah. They'll start trying to backpedal at first, and especially when it comes to repairs. Be like, I blew an airbag, and it's going to be, a 2-day repair. And I'm like, oh, no, it's not going to be a 2-day repair. It's a 2-hour repair. I used to run 4 repair shops that were open 24 hours a day. I know what the repair takes. And if I don't know what the repair takes, my son-in-law's a diesel mechanic, and I'll call him and say, hey, what does this repair take? And he'll tell me. He'll say, well, do you want what it actually takes, or do you want what the book says it takes? So
why do you think that, in a situation like that, for example, why would a driver lie about something like that?
They wanted to go home, or they wanted to stop and see a girlfriend. They wanted to stop at the casino, And so they'll tell you these stories, and maybe they overslept.
Gotcha. Okay. So it's almost like they're trying to cover their tracks, or
They're
maybe
trying to cover something that they've done, and that doesn't. And sometimes things happen,
Sure.
and I know that. But when you try to lie your way out of it, I would much rather you just say, "Hey, man, I overslept," or "Hey, drove by a casino and just had to stop."
So it's like almost like you're having this internal culture of just trust and authenticity. I mean,
That's it.
We throw a lot of those words around, I think, in every day in business, but it sounds like you guys are really, that's your pride and joy, and that's what you operate from.
It is our pride and joy, and then we're honest. We're always honest and upfront with each other. So that, and I think having the fact that we're all family, we're all related, that helps with that too.
So when you were exploring, different freight agent possibilities, did you go out and explore these opportunities? Did you try to test the waters with a few other freight agent programs, or?
I didn't. I was with a company, and I had chosen this company because I had actually leased towards the end of the trucking. When 08 and 09 came along and things were just bad. There was a company that I knew, and I'm not going to say their name, but it was a good company at the time. And I had leased my trucks on with them. Just what's that last ditch effort, trying to save some dollars and keep my guys driving, and I remembered them. So I called them and got my wife set up, Mary, with them to be a broker for them. And there was a real good guy that taught her a lot about brokerage and kind of helped her through that. And we were with them for a long time, but we kind of became big agents with them. We had invested a lot of our own money in our own technology, and that made our jobs a lot easier and a lot faster. And they got sold to another company, and at first they were all about it, and they turned out to be kind of bad actors. And everything we would ask, they would say no. And it was kind of interesting how I ran into Mike McCulloch at a conference for one of my big shippers, and just kind of run into him. And I'm with the vice president of the company I was with, and ran into Mike, and we met. And I had left because I had some work to do, and the vice president looked at Mike and says, "I know why you're here. You won't get him." And so Mike said, "Oh, well, I'm just here to meet people, okay." But I just really liked Mike, and I stayed in touch with Mike. Mike stayed in touch with me. And then come to find out, the president of SPI was the president at the company that I was with, or had been the president of the company I was with. And I remembered, that the business was ran a lot better then, and it was run with integrity and honor and dignity. And then Mike told Joe that he had met me, and then they both kind of started calling. No pressure. And Mike even said, "Hey, there's no pressure. If I'm in Florida, you want to go play golf?" I said, "Yeah, let's go play golf." And we never did get to play golf, but I finally came to a point with my company where saying no got too easy for them. And we already had some of our children working for us at the time, and we were stagnant. We couldn't grow because they wouldn't allow us to grow. They wouldn't work with our technology. They would tell us, "Oh, this won't work." I'm like, "Well, I've had it for 7 years. It works." And finally, I called Mike up and I said, "You know what? I'm ready to talk." And we started the switch process, the onboarding, and my other company, they were very angry with us, and Joe never wavered, and they threatened to sue us, and they threatened to do all these things, and SPI's attorneys said, "Oh, they have no leg to stand on," and so Joe actually flew to Florida, he and his wife, and they spent 3.5 weeks in Florida helping us onboard.
Wow.
And walked us through and helped us, and it's just, and I never looked at another company. So the long answer to your short question is no, I never looked at another company. We're a very successful agency, and we do get a lot of phone calls, and a lot of people reach out to us on LinkedIn, and they "Hey, would you be interested in talking?" And I always say, "Hey, thank you for calling. Thanks for thinking about us, but we're very happy where we're at." I'm not nasty to them because they're just doing their job.
Sure.
And so, but no, we never explored other opportunities. We came to SPI and looked at and saw, liked what we saw, and we actually onboarded in a very odd time because it was COVID.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it was 3 years ago,
And
you
so,
said.
and so the first time I had saw Joe, he came to see us, and he had his mask on, and we're South Florida, trucking.
Florida's a different breed.
We're a different breed, South Florida trucking cowboys, and I said, yeah, you wear that mask for you. You don't wear it for me. We don't do the masks here, and he has stuck with us through it all, and we went to the first rendezvous, our first rendezvous last year, which was in Orlando, which, usually you want to travel and see stuff. When you live in South Florida, no offense against Orlando, but been there, and
Probably a million times you've been there.
million times, but it's been a great move for us, and I think that we found everything that we were looking for, and a lot of things we didn't know we were looking for in SPI.
What were some of those things? Because you mentioned you had your own tech stack, and so you begin the onboarding process. Did you get to keep your tech, or did you find that it was beneficial to switch?
We have kept our technology, but Joe and Mitch and Eze, they kind of got together and they dovetailed our technology into SPI's technology, and then they helped us tweak it and make ours better and faster, and so it has dovetailed in real nice. And with the new things that are coming out, our business has been at a place where we can't grow anymore, and because there are some areas of lack, and we have just learned this weekend that there are some things available to us that are going to allow us to grow again, and so we're very excited about what they're doing. And they gave us these technologies. They didn't say no. They said let's figure it out.
I was about to say that it sounds like they want to work with you so much so that they're willing to make some custom software that fits within your processes that you already have.
And when we brought a big book of business that we have exploded since we came to SPI, but our business model is different than, I know that in one of your previous podcasts, you talked with Warren from Kansas City, a good friend of mine. His business model is different than mine. And I don't know how his business model works, but SPI has tailored our needs into the program. So, and we'll ask for something, and I'll say, hey, this will make our lives better. This will make our business faster. Okay, we'll make it happen. And they do. And so that has made all the difference in our business.
So we've talked a little bit about the technology side of things, just from the integrity part of the business. What about the sales part of the business? You mentioned you're growing like crazy, and you want to grow even more.
Yes.
How are you cold calling, cold emailing, or is it just based on referrals?
We do most of our growth on referrals. We have found that to work better for us. And Mike, we're going to a conference here in a couple of weeks, and I'm bringing everyone because my big shipper has multiple locations, and each location handles their own business. And so myself and Mary and Mike and Joe and Mark Funk from the company, the carrier procurement director, they're all going to meet us at this conference, and we are going to talk to all the players. And a lot of these people I've known for a long, long time. And they will refer us. They'll give us leads. They'll tell us, hey, go talk to that guy because his business will fit your model. And so we don't waste a lot of time. As far as cold calling, we don't really cold call a lot. And I just mentioned, I just came out of the sales meeting here at the breakout session. And one of the things that I shared with the groom is the best way in my mind to procure new business is I will call the receiver, and I'll just say, I'll talk to the person, maybe the shipping manager on the floor, and I'll say, hey, I got a guy coming in and I'm desperately needing a reload. Can you help me? Can you reload this guy? And he'll say, well, I'm not really in charge of that, but hey, you can call Bob and tell Bob that I sent you. And I'll say, well, what's Bob's extension and can you transfer me?
Smart.
And then he'll transfer me, and this is Bob speaking, hey, Bob, Mark on the floor told me to give you a call. I got a guy coming in and he needs a reload. Well, I don't really have anything, but I might have something tomorrow. Well, hey, I got a guy coming in tomorrow. Even if I don't, I've got my leg in now with Bob. And so that way I kind of get around the gatekeeper, and that's where we've been. And we're very fortunate because we've been very successful in our business, and we've been so busy that I could have business that I don't go after because I would not fairly represent that business because we are so busy and we're so much at our capacity. So I don't take business just because I can get it. If I can't service it correctly and properly, then I'm not going to take it.
It's a good motto to have. Now, you mentioned a little bit about the technology that's coming down the pipeline. How do you think that technology is going to help you almost, I guess, give extra hands to the people you already have?
Well, I think what it's going to do is it's going to weed out the bad actors and the double brokers and the triple brokers, and I'm not going to have to work as hard to do that. And so that's going to be a time saver. We've got situations where I've got some carriers that haul load after load after load after load for me to the point that we become friends. And now they can just go to the board, I can have an internal board and send it to them and they can just book themselves on it and get the information, and then I can finish it up, tomorrow, later, in an hour, and, I send a message and say, hey, Solly took this load, I'll get to you. And so it's taken some of the tedious work off of our process, and it'll allow us to go get more customers or just get more loads for the customers that I've got. Because we do leave loads on the table. We just, as a group, we like, hey, we can't take any more for a minute. Let's just wait. So.
What does, I guess, the evolution of your business look like outside of technology? It sounds like you have everything pretty much worked out. Like, what does growth look like to you? Except for more loads, maybe.
Well, I have more kids.
I don't know if we mentioned this during the recorded conversation, but you said you had 9.
We have 9 children.
9 children and 5?
5 grandchildren.
Grandchildren.
We are. What does growth look like for us? I mean, we realize there's a point where we're not going to grow anymore. We're not there.
No more family. No, you probably have more grandkids.
You have more guys. Our intention and our hope is that we continue to grow this business and we have something to hand to our children and to our grandchildren, and to let them continue to grow the business, and that it will provide a wonderful lifestyle opportunity for generations to come.
I love
as
that.
long as they want it. We got some that may not want it, but right now we do have. I have people a lot of times call me and ask me for jobs, and I'm really honest. I'm like, well, you're married already, and if you're not willing to marry my daughter, or not marry my, I'm sorry, can't help you out there. And so that's just kind of we just don't go outside of the family, and it's an interesting model, and it doesn't work for a lot of people, but it works for us.
I imagine there's almost an extra, like you already have a crazy amount of trust established. It sounds like,
yes.
But now there's an extra layer of trust that maybe is your competitive advantage.
It is our competitive advantage. Now, I'll tell you why we do it like this, because there is a backstory to that. About 10 years ago, we were talking with a lady, and she was what I call a kitchen table broker. And she literally built her business sitting at the kitchen table, and she was by herself for 20 years. Wow. And she built up a nice little income, right at 6-figure income. But she had never been on a vacation. In 20 years, this woman had never been on a vacation. So she hired her nephew, brought her nephew into the kitchen table, sat him down, taught him the business from top to bottom. He was her extension. He was everything, and she taught him everything. And then she went on vacation. 2 weeks later, 2 weeks in Europe, fabulous time, came home, nephew was gone, business was gone, customer was gone, computers were gone, and she started over. And she was probably in her late 50s, early 60s, and it's just I know that there are people, even in this conference, there are very good friends of mine at this conference that have very successful businesses, and they have outsiders that work for them. We just don't. We just don't. So.
How do you, I don't even know, how would you
start
protect
over?
Yourself after?
And see, that's the question. How do you start over, and how do you protect yourself, and how do you ever trust anybody again?
That?
Yeah, and I don't know how you avoid that. Could we grow if we hired someone outside? Maybe. Mm-hmm. I don't know, but it's just something that it just doesn't interest us. So we enjoy doing this together too much.
Honestly, it sounds like out of all of I've done a lot of these interviews, but it sounds like you really have it all figured out. Like you've worked all aspects of the industry. Now you have a really great internal business structure. It's growing like crazy.
Yeah.
You have a great partner with SBI.
Fabulous partner.
And what else do you want out of life? Like
Harley Davidson. No.
custom boots. I don't know if y'all can see this on the video right now, but he has some very great looking boots, and they are Cayman, and they were custom made.
Custom made, yes.
Very nice.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
From Florida, so
From
extra
Florida.
bonus points.
That's
too
right.
for
Bonus,
that.
the extra bonus. We just want to make sure that our family has a good lifestyle, and that they enjoy. We want them to want to come to work. We don't all work in the same office, but one of the things that I've been very adamant about is that I want our customers and our carriers to feel like they're talking to a big corporation. And I never want to be thought of as a kitchen table broker. Again, nothing wrong with being a kitchen table broker. But I think that when you talk to a carrier and you hear the screen door slamming and you hear the dogs yipping in the background and the kids crying and the television going, to me, that's not somebody that is a major player, and they don't want to be a major player, and that's fine, but it doesn't work for us. We do have a designated office in our home. Our carriers don't know it, customers don't know it. I mean, and when we leave our office, we can close it. It's a big office. We can close the door, but you know, I have my son that works for us. He lives in Fort Lauderdale. We live in Venice, Florida. My son lives in Fort Lauderdale. One of my daughters lives in Lincoln, Nebraska, and she works for us. My daughter-in-law lives in Fayetteville, North Carolina. She works for us. And so we are on, and then my other two work, my daughter and son, they work in our office for now. But we are on Zoom all day long. So we, in the main office, Mark Funk came and spent about a week with us learning our business when he first came to the company, and what an amazing addition to our company. But the biggest problem that we had at that time was how do we communicate with each other? So he came up with the idea because of his background, and we have a big speaker, microphone speaker, that literally sits in the middle of our office and hooks up to one of the computers. So all of our computers are muted except for one, and we can see each other and we can talk to each other and hear each other all day long. And so we all work on every load together. Everybody has got their own little, you know, one person's working on pricing loads, and one person's working on tracking loads, and you know, delivering loads and not picked up loads. And so we all kind of have our own little area of knowledge and expertise that we all work on the same loads together, and it's just worked out wonderfully.
I have not heard of that yet. It's almost like putting the speaker in the middle, so everybody, it's still, you're mimicking the in-office of like a brokerage floor,
right?
But at home.
At home, that's right.
I mean, honestly, it sounds like you have everything figured. Is there something that you want to learn more about this industry that you haven't already?
Yeah, how I can take more time off. You know, I mean, I'm 53 years old, and you know, we're at a place where we are hoping to grow enough to where we are wanting to you know, back away from the business just a little bit and let our children and our in-laws, and I say in-laws, but I mean she's our kid too, and let them sort of step up and sort of, you know, assume a little more, you know, responsibility and things like that, and just, you know, kind of see where they can take it, because they're the young generation. I mean, I'm the Burt Reynolds Smokey and the Bandit generation, you know, and so I'm really looking forward. And you know, you spoke today at our conference about branding and things, and that's something we have not really done a good job of. And I saw, you know, we were sitting in your meeting, and I picked up my phone and I'm texting, and I'm sorry that I was texting. I hope you didn't see me,
no.
But I was texting everybody. I'm like, do we need to hire someone to take care of our LinkedIn page? And so, you know, that's just something that we have really not gone down that road yet. But I do know that, you know, and I'm not the older generation, I'm not the younger generation, I'm sort of that middle generation where, you know, for me, the LinkedIn and the social media, and I still think you pick up a phone call and you go talk to people, but the people that are now becoming the button pushers and the gatekeepers, they're all younger, and they're part of this social media generation, and I recognize that. And I recognize that our role is changing, you know, and so I think that we're upping our technology with SPI, and I think we're going to look into our branding and our social media presence to move forward to the future. And that's the beautiful thing about SPI is they're always kind of trying to stay on the front end of technology and the trend. And we have done that as well with our technology. Now, like I say, the social media presence, who would have thought that it was going to be what it is now? I never would have. I figured, Facebook, it'll never last. You know, and here it is. And it's part of our daily lives. And so, of course, now I'll probably pick up my phone later and say, why you question Facebook on Google? You know, I'm like, whoa, that's scary. But yeah, I think that we're just trying to prepare into the future because we want to make sure that our kids, they have something to call their own in years to come. And we talk about this quite often. You know, that things are changing, and the strength of our business has always been that we have sat on every side of the fence, and we have the knowledge. We don't get excited about little ripples in the economy and little ripples in the business. We are very equipped to pivot with the business. And we do that quite well. And it's something that we have always done quite well. And I know that SPI has got, you know, right now, you know, the market's a little depressed and a little, you know, they throw that recession word around a lot. And yet SPI is outperforming a lot of much bigger carriers. And I also know that we're preparing for the future. And so that forethought that the company has in mind is similar to what we have in mind. And so, yeah, that's how we are looking into the future of our business.
I think that's a perfect place to end the conversation. Very well said and very well spoken. I think you have a great story. If I were to offer any kind of a piece of advice, I would say post from your personal LinkedIn or your wife's personal LinkedIn, because you guys have a very powerful story to tell, working on all different sides of the business. And I think that could go so far in a digital space where people are craving folks just like you, and the perspective from folks just like you who are honest and trustworthy and authentic, and, you know, all the buzzwords that you hear from a business perspective, you guys are living and breathing it. So.
Well, I'll just put this podcast on my LinkedIn page, and it'll explode, and it'll all be your fault.
Well, that's a good thing. Thank you.
and then you know, I've always people say, well, what do you want? And I'm like, well, you know, we're kind of at a place in our lives where I would love it for my wife to look up at me on a Thursday morning and say, you know what, let's not work today. Let's go to Key West. I'll be like, hell yeah, let's go to Key West.
That's the dream. I think everybody's working towards that dream.
That's right. That's right.
Steve, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Blythe.
Appreciate
Lovely to meet you.
Lovely to meet you as well. This is awesome.